What's going on, everybody? Welcome into the Baltimore Ravens Rundown. My name is Joey Peterson, and the Ravens might have a big problem on their hands heading into Sunday's game of Baltimore versus Cleveland. Only their second AFC North game of the season so far. They got the Bengals twice and the Steelers twice to round out their schedule over the next 8 games. But, of course, that news I'm talking about is probably the news you saw earlier, that Lamar Jackson was not practicing today. He joined a pretty, lengthy, not as lengthy as we've seen, but a good amount of people on it. Injury report of Rashod Bateman, Justice Hill, Marlon Humphrey, and Jay Higgins. Now, I will tell you, we did get an update from John Harbaugh after practice that said Lamar Jackson was dealing with a little bit of knee soreness, but, quote, he should be good. Now, it's easy to read that and say, okay, it's fine. It's nothing to worry about. He's going to be just fine. He's going to be good to go for Sunday's game against Cleveland. I get that that sounds positive. And if right now I were to place a wager on whether he plays or not, I would say he does. But we do also have to realize that it's Coach Harbaugh that's saying that. The same exact guy who gives coach speak in his sleep. The same exact guy who said going into the bye week that Lamar Jackson was going to be able to go after the bye week. And then the bye came. The bye went. You had your Week 8 matchup against Chicago, and guess who was not in the lineup? Lamar Jackson. So while I don't think you need to be pressing the panic button, and while I don't think it's going to be anything long-term or anything near as serious as his first injury was of a hamstring after that Chiefs game, I do think you need to take what John Harbaugh is saying with a grain of salt, because we've heard him, I don't want to say lie before, but I think we've heard him put a little bit more fluff on things than it is actually truthful when you look under the surface. And if he's not good to go, the part that it feels like they might be facing might have a major problem on their hands is you're going against an elite front in the Cleveland Browns. I'm talking an elite front. And even if he is there, he is going to be far less mobile than he would be if he was 100% fully healthy. I mean, when you think about the Cleveland Browns, obviously you think about Myles Garrett. He has almost as many sacks this season as the Baltimore Ravens defense in its entirety. He has 11. Baltimore has 12. Their pass rush, where it ranks in the National Football League, if you look at their time to pressure, it's at 2.51 seconds. That's first in the NFL. If you look at the sacks they've gotten, their quarterback pressure rate, both of those statistics, both of those numbers are top 10. You are facing a top 10 unit in football. A top 5 one, I'd argue, when it comes to being able to get to the passer. And the last time you played this team, they were able to do that all game long. Okay? 3 sacks, 15 quarterback pressures, a quarterback pressure rate of 45.5%. I know those numbers look off, but trust me, that's a mistake of producer Gage, not of your boy. I remember the numbers I put in there. And all of those were highs except the sacks, because Baltimore gave up 7 against Detroit. Okay? But the quarterback pressure rate, high for this season. Quarterback pressures allowed, high for this season as well. So it does feel like Baltimore might have more of a problem on their hands than originally anticipated with this news of Lamar Jackson dealing with an injury, and his status right now is still developing for Sunday's game. The offensive line, they just have not been good when it comes to pass blocking, plain and simple. When you look at the PFF grades, Ronnie Stanley's been fine, 66.5. Vorhees, Linderbaum, they've been bad, 55 and 53. It says Daniel Faalele at 67.2, but I'm just going to come out right now, tell you that number's a lie, because we know Daniel Faalele has been the worst pass blocker of anybody on this Ravens offensive line. And then Roger Rosengarten, he's sitting at a 71.9. So while I do think Lamar Jackson is going to be okay, and I do think Lamar Jackson is going to play on Sunday, his limited mobility, I think, could cause some problems against that Cleveland Browns defensive line. You want him back and healthy as soon as possible? Do me one big favor. Hit that thumbs up button and like today's video. We need his health bar as full as it possibly could be, and we need as many good vibes out there as we can. So if you want him back as quickly as possible, hit that thumbs up button and like the video. This game is incredibly important on Sunday. I don't need to say that. You already know that. I get it. It's against a really bad Browns team. But right now, Baltimore has a 76% chance to make the playoffs via the Athletics playoff projection analytics. Really, really good number right there. But if you lose against Cleveland, that drops down almost 10%, a little bit more than 10% even, and that goes to 64%. Now, that's still relatively high, but I don't want to see what that would do for AFC North implications when you're still not the top in that division. This game is massive, okay? You need Lamar Jackson to be as good as possible. And a good Lamar Jackson is a mobile Lamar Jackson. And I've got a feeling that's not what you're going to want. That's not what you're going to see against Cleveland. Now, if I'm talking what I want to see against Cleveland, with him kind of dealing with this injury and this knee soreness, which I'm not too surprised by. I remember calling that game on Sunday and being like, whoa, Lamar Jackson was a little bit slow to get up there. If that is true, and he's nowhere near 100%, I want to see Derrick Henry's usage percentage as high as possible. I would love to see Keaton Mitchell in there as well. I just want to see you run the football a lot. And if you're going to run the football, don't do it with Lamar. I want to see limited quarterback runs. I want to see limited quarterback scrambles as well. I want this defense to continue to step up, continue to make plays, continue to force turnovers, continue to get stops like we've seen the last 4 weeks. And then I also want the wide receivers and the tight ends to start making plays. When you have a quarterback who's not at his healthiest, the best thing you can do as a pass catcher on this team is take what would have been a 3-yard slant, take that 60 yards to the house. Pop off 30 when you really should have only gotten 5. Something along those lines. Everybody else, when your quarterback isn't as fully healthy as he should be, everybody else has got to pitch in a little bit more. What's your concern level for Lamar Jackson's health? Scale it for me 1 to 100. 100, you're the most concerned. 1, you're the least concerned. I would say right now, I'm probably sitting at like a 20. I'm not incredibly concerned. If I were to scale for you of things you would like from 1 to 100, and we're talking about Prize Picks, I would put that at an 100. They are the sponsor of today's video. They are my favorite sponsor on this channel. And with them, the hard-hitting football action is even better with Prize Picks. The weather might be changing, but the feeling of being right never gets old. So keep the season rolling on Prize Picks by getting $50 instantly in lineups when you play your first $5. Prize Picks is the only app that offers stacks, meaning you could pick the same player up to 3 times in the same lineup. Want to pick more on Lamar Jackson's pass yards, rush yards, and touchdowns? Now you can pick all of them in the same lineup only on Prize Picks. Follow other Prize Picks players directly on the app and copy their lineups in one click, whether it's a friend, a celebrity partner, or just someone whose picks you like. Hit the follow button and check out every lineup they create in the new feed tab on Prize Picks. Here's my Prize Picks lineup for Sunday's game against Cleveland. Give me the more on Derrick Henry, 3.5 yards on the first rush. Give me the more on Keaton Mitchell, half a rushing touchdown. Feel like 3-4 gets in the end zone for the first time this year on Sunday. And go ahead, give me the more on Andre Sismet, Cleveland's kicker, to have more than 1.5 field goals made. Download the Prize Picks app today and use code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. The link to this promo is in the comments and description of today's video. Prize Picks, it's good to be right. We thank you, Prize Picks, for sponsoring today's show. So unfortunately, the lucky run on injuries is over for the Baltimore Ravens. As we talked about heavily on Thursday's show last week, they had 0 injuries to report on their Wednesday practice and on their Thursday practice. Well, unfortunately, for this week, that was not the case because Rashod Bateman still dealing with an ankle. Marlon Humphrey dealing with a finger. Running back Justice Hill, he was a new surprise on that injury report. And then Jay Higgins dealing with that knee injury as well. John Harbaugh spoke. Not only did he speak about Lamar Jackson, but he spoke about all of these guys, saying that there would be a guy or 2 who will miss Sunday's game against Cleveland. Marlon Humphrey is going to be one of those guys after getting a pin put into his finger. But still, they said on Sunday if Marlon Humphrey or I believe this is Monday, if Marlon Humphrey is out for time, it's not going to be a lot, maybe 1 to 2 weeks. Now, the good news when it comes to Marlon Humphrey being out is that Dylan Gabriel sucks, okay? Dylan Gabriel has had a horrible run over his past couple of games. So I trust the defense around Marlon Humphrey to step up enough to where Cleveland doesn't really scare me in terms of putting points up on the board. Now, for Rashod Bateman, I would be shocked if he plays as well. John Harbaugh said there's going to be a guy or two that misses Sunday's game. Marlon Humphrey is the guy. Rashod Bateman is the or two, in my opinion. The bad news with that is the Browns' defense is solid. If the Browns had any sort of a decent offense, oh my gosh, their team would be so much better just because of how good that defense, specifically their defensive line, truly is. Now, if you're going to take good news from Rashod Bateman being out, if there is any, you could take this, that he's been quiet in 2025. So this offense has had to operate consistently 10 weeks through the season of him really not being that big of a factor. So if you're super worried about Rashod Bateman not playing, I would tell you, take a chill pill. It's kind of like he's been absent so far this season. In other news around the National Football League, the Pittsburgh Steelers signed cornerback Asante Samuel Jr. to their practice squad. He's not on their active roster yet, and if any other team wanted to sign him from their active roster, from Steelers practice squad to their active roster, they could do that if Asante Samuel Jr. would decide to join them and if it's mutual. But the Steelers landed a pretty good cornerback prospect. He was a guy we talked about a lot on this channel. I got a lot of questions about him in mailbags, and I always thought he'd fit well with this defense. He's young, but the thing that's about him is it's a risk. He just had spinal fusion surgery in April, and he plays a contact sport. So who knows what the future in his career is. But if he doesn't cost much, I think it would have been worth the gamble. Unfortunately, with as many teams as were interested in him, I'm sure that his price kind of went up a little bit more than originally anticipated. Regardless, though, he lands with the Pittsburgh Steelers, and that's a guy I could see having an impact there. They're moving things around a lot in that secondary. Jalen Ramsey just played safety the last 2 weeks because he was not doing well as a corner. Asante Samuel Jr. could be one of the missing pieces that they need. That's going to do it on today's show. Make sure you got me followed on social media, Twitter, Instagram. I'm on both of those platforms. And make sure you guys are subscribed to the channel, youtube.com/RavensTV. You'll be happy that you did.